More closer.
Yeah, fine.
You good?
Yeah. Boker Tov, everyone. Very good Erev Shabbat. As we're all aware, this week's Parsha is the Parsha that describes the golden calf, the Egel Azov. And as such, it is perhaps one of the most layered parshas in the Torah, meaning to try and be understood and grasped on many different layers and many different viewpoints. And it's a very difficult parsha. The difficulty is obvious. 2 weeks ago, we read, a few weeks ago, we read about Ma'amad Har Sinai, Nasev and Ishma, chosen people, Zgula Mikol Ha'amin. The second of the commandments, Lo Yeh Lecho Elohim Acherim Al Ponai. And how do they descend into worshiping a golden calf? And there are myriad interpretations of this, all of which are true, because there are many things that go in to make up human behavior. Very rarely is human behavior the product of one motivation alone. It's a combination of experiences, of ideas, of circumstances. But I'm going to dwell on a pasuk in this week's parsha that found a special resonance in the works of many of the great Hasidic masters. The Jewish people sin, build the Egel. Moshe Rabbeinu descends from the mountain. The letters from the tablets evaporate, they fly away. The stones are so heavy, he cannot hold them, they fall, they're shattered. That's the end. Then a civil war breaks out. Moshe says, Mila Hashem Eloi, Vayikra Elov Kol B'nai Levi. The Levium gathered, and there was a civil war, and thousands of people were killed in the civil war. So the whole exodus from Egypt, everything is shattered here. If there ever would be a moment that they would say, Nitna Rosh Hashuva Mitzrayma, let's go back to Egypt, this would be the moment. It's all, look what happened there. In Egypt, we didn't kill each other. And Moshe then says to the Jewish people, I'm going to try and go up to heaven and see if I can somehow bring forgiveness for this. Maybe there'll be a forgiveness for you. So the Torah says that heaven offered Moshe listen, forget about them. They're useless. We're never going to make a people out of them. Let's start with you. You'll become the great people. Now that's an offer that many people would deem to be acceptable to them. And heaven offers it to him. And in other words, if it couldn't happen, then heaven wouldn't have offered it. It's not that Moshe volunteers here. Yet what happens is that Moshe says no. Not only he says no, he says, "B'mayin mecheni no mesifrecha asher kosofta." If you don't forgive them, erase me from the book. I don't want to have, there's no Moshe. The Lord says, I will forgive who I want to forgive, and I'll erase who I want to erase. Don't tell me what to do. And then Moshe goes up for 40 days to bring forgiveness for the Jewish people, and comes down on Yom Kippur. Wondrous story, completely illogical, irrational. But what we find even more difficult, and this is what's raised by the Hasidic Svarim, it's in the Sfasemes, it's also in the Ohev Yisrael. What did Moshe say to Rabbanu Shalom? How does he want to, if you want to bring forgiveness for something, the parent comes to the teacher and he says, my child can't read because he's dyslexic. My child didn't get enough sleep, so he couldn't come for the test. My child was bullied. That's why he doesn't like school. Nobody comes to the teacher and says, my child is an awful child, evil to the core, but you should forgive him. That's not the way the world works. If you go for a judgment, you want to always introduce mitigating circumstances. So Moshe should have said, the Medrash puts words in Moshe's mouth, but it doesn't appear in the text. Moshe should have said, they were just slaves in Egypt. They're coming from 300 years of paganism. They're in shock from the revelation at Sinai. They never bought in from the beginning that they're going to be an Am Sgula and a Mamlechus Kohanim. That's what he should have said. So therefore, that's why they fell into the golden calf, because that's what they were accustomed to. That's all they know. You'll take a child that never had a Jewish education and ask him why he doesn't know Gemara. That's stupid. Never went to school. How can he know Gemara? Moshe doesn't say that. Moshe says, Omnom choto mazeh chato gdola. This people made a great mistake, a great sin, terrible thing that they did. Now you should forgive them. That's the way to be a defense attorney. That's the question that this forum raised. An excellent question. Because Moshe offers no defense here, zero defense. He doesn't say all the things that could have been said. Could have said it was the Erev Rav. It wasn't the real Jews didn't sin. He could have said all sorts of things, all of which were true. And the only thing he says is, yeah, they did a terrible thing. He's a murderer. My client is a murderer. He killed everybody. So on that point, there are a few ideas that we can take. And it's especially important, I think that the attitude here of the great Hasidic masters towards Jews and towards the problems of Jews is visible. Because we're not going to excuse what happened. We're going to try and understand what happened. It's two different things completely. In our modern world, we not only understand criminality, we excuse it because we think we understand it. He grew up in a bad neighborhood. What do you want? His father never had a father. Or he went to an inner city public school. What chance does he have? So understanding the circumstances becomes the excuse. But in Judaism, they are two different things completely. We can understand the circumstances, but it is still not an excuse. It still doesn't remove the culpability. We have a rule in halacha, onus rachmona patre. Something that's forced upon a person, so then the person is freed from the obligation of doing the mitzvah. Can't do it. But that doesn't mean that he has the mitzvah. He may not be responsible for not having the mitzvah, but the bottom line is he didn't do the mitzvah. And my wife was a teacher of fourth grade for 25 years in Muncie. I always used to joke that if she ever understood fractions, they'd let her into fifth grade. She didn't laugh either. So she told me this story one day, that she had assigned the book report to be due in a month. All the girls are supposed to hand it in, do the book report. Came the day, everybody hands in the book report, but one child does not hand it, one student does not hand it. So my wife said to her, Leah, where's your book report? So she said, well, I had it all ready and I put it in the trunk of my father's car and he sold the car. So my wife said that was the greatest excuse she ever heard, just to give the girl an A for creativity. But at the end of the day, there was no book report, right? That's the end of the day. So that's how the Torah looks at things. At the end of the day, right, all the excuses in the world, right? But the end is it's not there. So what's this story here with the Egel and with Moshe? What is Moshe saying? How does Moshe dare to say to heaven, forgive them? and he doesn't give heaven, so to speak, any reason to forgive them. So here we have really a facet, part of the problem always in teaching Chumash, and I have found over the years, is that you can only communicate a facet. You can't give the whole picture because it's beyond human ability to do so. So therefore, everybody takes a piece, and sometimes you never get the whole picture because you've only taken a piece of it. So today's piece goes as follows. Moshe said, Omnam choto om azeh chato gdola. The word chet, the word chato in Hebrew, is not necessarily a willful sin. Chet means that you missed the target. Somehow you went wrong. In the Tanakh, it's machti et hamatara. You missed the target. The aveira is a different word. Doesn't say onam ovara om avzeh aveira gdol. Aveira is I know what to do and I don't do it. I go over it. Osham is that I'm guilty. I know
Put it on speaker.
when it comes to chet, people don't even know they did anything wrong.
What?
They missed the.
I know. Shoot. What?
Somebody tell them to mute, please.
See what you see. No, I unmuted.
Chet is that I missed the mark. So to speak, I intended to hit the mark, but I missed it. My aim was not accurate. So Moshe says that to heaven. This is a people that is always searching for utopia. That's always searching for a better world. It's always searching, so to speak, to get closer to God, to you. But it missed the mark. It took the wrong turn. They thought they could do it this way. They didn't say we don't believe. They didn't say there is no God. They said, this is okay, we don't know what happened to Moshe, so this is the golden calf is our Moshe. That's how we're going to worship God. We'll play a guitar in the service. That's how we're going to worship. But we're worshiping. It was a search for spirituality, so to speak. It's a search for the better world. And therefore you have to forgive them because that's what their search is. There's a famous Hasidic discussion between the Rabbi Yitzchak the Vorker Rebbe, and the Kotzker Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Morgenstern. They were friends, colleagues together in Pshischa. So the Vorker Rebbe asked the Kotzker, he said, I don't understand. The Jewish people build the golden calf and they worship it and God forgives them. The spies come back and they say, Eretz Yisrael is too hard. And everything that they say is true. And God does not forgive that. That generation doesn't go there. Eretz Yisrael. That's it. Their doom is sealed. Logically, I would say that the golden calf is far worse than that. You can go to Eretz Yisrael because San Diego is more comfortable. Suppose I understand that. And here is and you forgive him. How do we reconcile that? So the Vorker said, I mean, the greatness of these people. The Vorker said, when the Jewish people did tshuva, Moshe came down and the Jewish people did tshuva on the Chet Oegel. And they drank from the waters, when the ground up the gold. So at that moment in their spiritual development, they were unaware that tshuva helps because they didn't have an example of it helping. Nevertheless, they did full tshuva. So God forgave them. But when it came already by Eretz Yisrael, about the spies, they already knew that tshuva helps. So therefore their tshuva was insincere. It's kamo echtev oshuv. I'll commit the sin and then I'll do tshuva. I'll steal the money, but I'll give 10% to charity. And therefore God did not forgive them. That's what the Vorker said. The Kotzker said to him, I have a different interpretation. My interpretation is by the Chet Hagel, the Jewish people were searching for God. They were searching for spirituality. They were searching for utopia. They had a great goal in mind. Yisrael, this is your God. So God forgave them. They were wrong, followed the wrong path, wrong beliefs, but he forgave them. By the Meraglim, by Eretz Yisrael, it was only a question of Gashmias. They weren't searching for anything. They just said it's uncomfortable. Eretz Yisrael is uncomfortable. When the reason for the rebellion is because of personal discomfort, so that God did not forgive them. So that's what Moshe said here. The people sinned, but they missed the mark. They wanted to do something good. They wanted to have a God. They made a terrible mistake, but they wanted something good. I remember I had one of my rabbeim in the yeshiva. I didn't understand it then. It takes 40 years to understand what your rebbe tells you, and sometimes even then you don't get it. So by me, it's maybe 65 years already. It's more than that. So 70 years already. So when I grew up in Chicago, there was a big, large, vocal Jewish Communist Party. And they were anti-religious to the core. And once in a while, one of these guys would show up in the yeshiva and he would try and give a rabble-rousing message that we should all somehow follow Marx instead of Rabbeinu Tam. And so we asked the Rebbe, what does he say about this? So he said, they're looking for something. They really want to have a better world. They're wrong. They took the wrong turn. But they have a pursuit of a goal. Terrible goal, but nevertheless, that they're looking to have a spiritual, they want to have a fair world, and well, all the baloney. He said, but there are those that they're not, they only want to have more material goods. They only want to have more power. They only want to have more wealth, etc. They don't have any spiritual goal. That will cause far greater damage. We could see that in front of our eyes, what happened to American Jewry. They didn't assimilate because they became communists. They assimilated because of the fact that they worshiped the golden calf. So the pursuit of spirituality is a dangerous, dangerous topic. That's what the great Hasidic master said. It can lead to golden calves. But at least there's a goal there. There's something. Whereas the pursuit of only worldly pleasures and material gain, that's a sin that's not easily forgiven and that has consequences. The Gemara teaches us, Arbo nichnasu lepardes. There were 4 great men that attempted to reach the heights of spirituality. 3 of them were damaged by it. One lost his mind. One never married or had children. One became an apicorus. Only Rabbi Akiva escaped. So again, the Meforshim point out the pursuit of ultimate spirituality is dangerous. I mentioned this week regarding the Ktoras, the incense. So the incense was a blessing, but the incense was lethal. It could cure all of the plagues, but it brought death to those who didn't deserve to use it. So too is the pursuit of spirituality. It's dangerous. Therefore, the Torah, I don't know how to put this nicely, but you're sophisticated enough to understand what I'm trying to say. The Torah is not spiritual. The Torah is meat and potatoes, put on film, via Shomer Shabbos, listen to the shofar, eat kosher. The layers of spirituality have been built over it. And they're undoubtedly true and present. But that's not what the Torah emphasized to you. Torah emphasized to you human behavior. Human behavior, what to do. Because if we start out and we're looking to get to the utopia, we're looking for all this spirituality. So then many times we miss the mark. Becomes a chet, chato gdola, we miss the mark. Yeah, somebody this morning, the young man that I walk with, he's telling me he's got a friend who, yeshiva, they went to the yeshiva together, etc., etc. His friend is a guru now in Nepal. He's spiritual to the heavens. Mishuga of Tate. Nuts. He's an addict. Everything happened. Tried to find. I was once, someone called me. It was late at night. In fact, I was asleep and he woke me. And he wants to consult with me about a shidduch that he's in the middle. He wants to know what do I know about this girl? So like 2 a.m, I'm not really interested. But okay, whatever he asked, he answered. It makes a difference. And then he says, "Can I ask you one more thing?" So I said, "All right." So he said, "Is she spiritual?" So I said, "I hope not." I don't know if he understood it, but that was a blessing. I hope not. Because then you'll have a wife and you'll have a mother and you'll have a Jewish home and you'll have a family and you have a sense of normalcy and you'll have what the Lord wanted to have. So it's a dangerous area. So I wouldn't give this lecture publicly. Since nobody ever listens, so I have no qualms about it. But that these are concepts and layers to understand from this Parsha. It's not black and white. Nothing in the Torah is. There's so many shades of color and of nuance to try and understand and incorporate it into our lives as well. So have a Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thank you for coming, and stay dry.
Shabbat is 8:30.
This
Thank you
Saturday
very
night
much.
is 8:30 is the lecture.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom, thank you.